I gently lifted my body to make it easier. Now his brother could effortlessly remove the cord from the way, leaving me in plain sight right in front of him. The peculiar aroma of the exercise room quickly permeated the room, intensifying the attention between us even more. Hey, my name is Emily. I'm 32 years old and I've been married to Ethan for 4 years. I'll try to be straightforward in the narrative that is real. There may be parts that seem exaggerated, but describing this type of event is not easy. I'm a dedicated amateur runner, and because I sweat a lot, I always avoid wearing light-colored leggings when I run in the city park. By the end of the workout, I'm soaked in the front part, and sometimes it feels like I didn't make it to the bathroom in time. I'm so sweaty. People openly stare, which made me quite uncomfortable. It was a big problem for me until something completely unexpected happened with the arrival of my brother-in-law 6 months ago. My husband asked if I would be upset if his brother stayed at our house for about 30 days. He needed to stay in New York to finish a work project. At first, I was a little resistant. My husband travels a lot for work, and I mentioned that it would be strange to be home alone with my brother-in-law. But, after much insistence, I finally agreed. And that was how, unintentionally, I ended up starting a new phase with the very person who started it all. On the first weekend, since it was raining, I decided to run on the treadmill. At home, I wore light gray leggings. After 50 minutes of running, I went to the kitchen to drink water and came face to face with my brother-in-law. He looked directly at where the sweat mark was impossible to ignore. He said good morning to me, and I replied a little awkwardly, while drinking water. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that he was not taking his eyes off my area. I was embarrassed. What could he be thinking? I took a quick shower and, after breakfast, I had to go out with my husband. His brother preferred to stay home. When I came back, I went to the bathroom and noticed that my underwear was rummaged through in the hamper. At the time I was upset, but I remembered the image of him in the kitchen, looking at me with a different look. Now, the idea of him wanting to know the aroma seemed to make sense. Did he like it? That confused me, and I began to see the situation differently. The initial discomfort was giving way to a risky curiosity, and that gave me a certain excitement. That scene wouldn't leave my mind all day. At night, I gave myself to my husband in a special way, imagining the scene. I think Ethan noticed something different, because I gave up on him about 3 times that day. The next day, with an idea already formed, I ran on the treadmill again, this time wearing light green leggings that made everything very obvious. And, to top it all off, at the end of the workout, my front region was completely wet again. His brother was in the living room. I stopped to say something trivial, just to observe his reaction. And, as I imagined, he didn't take his eyes off that area. That sparked an interest I didn't even know I had. I stayed talking to him until my husband woke up and we went to have breakfast together. I sat next to him, but my attention was on my brother-in-law. I wanted to understand what was going on, even though nothing had been said. I discreetly pulled my pants between my legs, feigning discomfort, and made sure he saw the movement. Then, with the same hand, I took a piece of bread and put it on his plate. He almost automatically took the bread and ate it. I gave a discreet chuckle at the corner of my mouth. Yes, he liked that. He was a man who had no qualms. What had previously embarrassed me deeply now excited me in a different way. After breakfast, I went to take a shower and, on purpose, left the clothes I had worn for training on display in the bathroom basket in the suite. I made up an excuse for my husband and we left together, leaving Michael alone in the house. I knew that this would give him the opportunity to go into the bathroom in our room. I was gone for more than an hour, but my head was buzzing. I wanted to go back right away to check if he had messed with it. As soon as I got back, I went straight to look. As I expected, they were all over the place. He, apparently, didn't even care about leaving them as they were before. He must have wanted me to notice. The spring inside me came to life at that very moment. I had never witnessed that. I left the bathroom and, without saying a word, looked Michael straight in the eyes. My gaze was clear. I was allowing and approving the game. That night, I gave myself to Ethan again in a way that surprised him. I wasn't much of a seeker, but since I was imagining that the one with me was Michael, my attitude changed to more vigorous movements. It didn't take me much pedaling to fall into a deep, smiling sleep. I did this for almost 2 weeks. After work or a run, I would leave my clothes on display in the bathroom or on top of the laundry basket and later go check to see if anyone had touched them. Both he and I knew exactly what was going on. At first, it was just a joke. After all, he was my brother-in-law and that was it. But then my husband had to travel and we were home alone for 5 days. I figured I could take it a step further. On the first day, when I came back from work, I left my underwear on the bed and asked him to get something from the bedroom. When he came back, he made a point of showing me that he was into it. That got to me. Later, when I went to bed, I couldn't hold it in and ended up comforting myself. I closed my eyes and imagined him falling in love with my scent. When I finished, I let out a louder moan than I should have. I'm almost certain he heard it. At that moment, I realized we were crossing the safety line. My bolder side insisted that I continue, while my cautious side begged me to stop. I woke up early the next day and went for a run on the treadmill. The sweat mixed with my fluids left my clothes completely soaked in the front. When I finished, I made sure to stay close to Michael for a long time. I wanted him to look, to notice the exhalation of that fragrance. During the conversation, I mentioned that I was going to take a shower because I was dirty and, as I headed to the bathroom, I felt his hand grab me. I was paralyzed. I couldn't let that happen. But the bolder side took control and I didn't react. He turned me around and, like a scene from a soap opera, I tried to back away, but I knew it was useless. The safety line had been crossed and, in a short time, we were in my room. While he explored, leaving only the smelly thread, I was there. Even though I knew that this was crazy, there was no way to stop. He threw me. My body hung on the mattress and I climbed towards the headboard, as if I wanted to escape, but there was no way. He grabbed the side of the only piece of clothing I was still wearing, trying to get it out of the way. I gently lifted my body, still sweaty from training, so the way was clear for me to finally be fully visible to the eyes. At the same time, the natural aromas of my skin rose, increasing the tension even more. "Carlos, we can't do this," I whispered. "Emily, there's no turning back now. This has also cheered me up in a way, but it's just a joke. We can't go any further than that," he dismissed my words. I was ready, all sweaty, in our little sanctuary. The aroma was all over the room, which made the heat rise even more. "It's too late now. I love you like this," he said. "I can't stand thinking about you anymore and figuring it out on my own." I knew it was risky, but the trembling voice in which I spoke showed that the new spirit was taking control. "But he's your brother," I said, as he began to work. And when finally in the valley he found the doors slightly open, because from inside a heavy waterfall was in the process of flowing, the happiness of knowing that someone loved my defect made me an even happier power, seeing everything in a different way. "I love your taste. You are top-notch, impeccable, inexplicable, mind-boggling." And like someone taking their first bite of an apple, he made his first contact with me, starting the conversation between him and my valley, which had not yet been washed. He was now responsible for washing it, in his own way. I let go completely, clutched the bedclothes with my hands and shouted mentally, "I deserve this. Enjoy, this is my flavor. This is the real me, you crazy person. You like it like this, really raw, the salt of the earth." Ethan never wanted to taste it like this. He always rushed. With that specialized affection that he maintained, talking very friendly and dedicated, I brought my relief in less than 3 minutes, losing to him when I moved too much and, unintentionally, took the truffle out of the way of his mouth. He returned to my contact, returning to talk more calmly, since now the valley was very sensitive. Soon came the first release of the day. After many involuntary movements, I looked like I had just come out of a can. I wanted to reciprocate in kind, but he pushed me, arranged me and placed the bird in the dovecot in one go, as if it already belonged there. Without resistance, it soon began to beat, pecking at the bottom of the cave. How wonderful! After the toucan had enjoyed itself in the nest, he placed me so that I could look at the wall at the head of the bed and punished me a little for showing him so much affection. I, having very light skin, responded with prominent and very conspicuous redness. It is very good to be who I am. My only job was to welcome the guest with open doors, who, by the way, was already part of the family. He was now more than welcome. He visited me repeatedly, so many times that it was impossible to count. I was on another plane, talking nonsense, as he increased his presence. I realized how dangerous it was to receive the little friends that he would abandon in a few moments. I made it very clear that I couldn't receive them, since I wasn't drinking anything, but it seemed that this encouraged him even more to continue the party. I looked back and noticed a voracious man, almost with a look of revenge. And when he saw me looking at him, his face softened. Someone who was about to spill lost strength at the sight of my defiant look. I laid my face on the mattress, leaving the polished apple for him, and waited. My answer came with the sound of a tired rush. Leave it inside, speak louder, scream. I want you to scream. Oh, why did he do that? Why did he say that? It's not something you say to a surrendered lady, dizzy from the heat. I screamed as if I were hurt, repeating it loud and clear, perhaps even for the neighbors to hear. He very delicately, tiredly, unloaded everything he had, throwing all the icing on the cake. It seemed like it would never end. When I got up to get a drink of water, I felt the cake spill, and believe me, the path it took was similar to a raindrop on a window, which starts off strong and then slows down. Be prepared to feel another confectioner's icing coming out of the cake, down to your ankle. It's heavenly. It's like tasting real life. After we got down and realized everything, remorse came and, of course, fear of the consequences. We shouldn't have done that. I've never been disloyal and, the first time, it's on you. And on top of that, since you could be, you're crazy, you know that? I talked to him, we discussed countless things about responsibilities, what we could lose with that, the risk of losing control. The truth is that it affected me. I was discovering something new that I never imagined I would feel. The happiness of having another person to get to know awakened a risky feeling in me. In short, we stayed like that until my husband got back. We were like boyfriends. Every day, 5 times a day. The risk of generating a PR from him made me even more willing. During our conversations, knowing that Ethan would be home in 10 minutes, Michael would always look for me in the kitchen and help me wash the dishes, of course, in his own way, connected and firm. With 1 minute left for Ethan to open the door, he would spill the seed and run away. Of course, I avoided Ethan as soon as he opened the door. We gave him a casual kiss, adrenaline was pumping. We went to bed, where I had just talked to his brother a few hours earlier, not to mention that I still had the seed stored. It took me a while to fall asleep. There were so many feelings, fear, remorse and, above all, excitement. The next night, it was Ethan's turn. I was more excited than I had been the other nights, and because I was, he decided to come down and talk to the Pearl. I was a little tense. I was afraid he would suspect something, but as soon as I realized he didn't suspect anything, I relaxed. I was perfectly clear. It was all in the family. After that, his brother finds an excuse to spend 2 or 3 days at my house every month. I continue to be loved by both of them every month. I am the happiest woman in the world. I have both of them, one more romantic and protective, the other more alpha, without fears. Another thing, don't think that I'm being totally irresponsible, putting my marriage and even our friendship at risk, because this risk is calculated. My husband is open-minded. We've talked about these things and thought about it from time to time. We didn't go ahead with it because, at the time, I wasn't ready. Today, I'm already working with my husband to make it happen together. I don't think I'll have any difficulties. He wasn't the one who started these ideas. He wasn't the one who awakened my bolder side and silenced my cautious side. A big kiss, and I hope you liked what I shared with you. This is an important part of what's happening in my relationship and, of course, I don't advise anyone to do what I'm doing. As I said, it's a calculated risk.